Have you ever trusted a person so much that in the image of suffering, he or she is the type of person who would still hear you out? Back in elementary, I usually don't trust other people. It's not like I hate them for that reason, such that I've been a lot of promises that my friends made back then, but none of them came true. Besides, if you're also in my position, you also wouldn't want to trust anybody, especially a type of person who would always make promises but who never fulfills. However, there is a person whom I entrusted most, and that is my uncle. My uncle was the person whom I look up to. That's why I've always put my trust in him. If you would describe my uncle was a man of word. He once told me that as a family, everyone should stick together. In fact, in every problem, he's always by my side. But one fateful night, my uncle collapsed and was taken to the hospital. By morning, as soon as I received the news, I dashed downstairs, only to learn that my uncle had died. Hearing the news, as well as the sensation of being smashed into bits, rendered me speechless. At that moment, you'll also feel the frustration why such things happening. Due to frustration, I started questioning myself. Is there a person worth of trust? Likewise, a burial ceremony was planned. It was a gloomy morning as I next stand to the grave of my uncle. As they lowered the casket into the grave, I was slowly continued to be swallowed by frustration and hopeless as I say my final goodbye. Gladly, my mother came up, hugged me, and told me, "You are not alone, you know. We also lost someone we love. That's why we are family." This enlightened me, the feeling deep inside of me. In similar way, the feeling of you being surrounded by warm comfort, my friends, family, and my loved ones who are expecting for me. With this experience of mine, made me open up on the people around you. People around you who trust and believes in you. And in fact, they made you feel that you're not alone in facing this problem that you are going through. However, gaining the trust in a person is quite the process for all of us. According to communication.com, a research was conducted to identify people's perspective about trust, such that trust can be considered a state of mind or an expectation, or a moral obligation. As part of God's creation, God has embedded us desire to help people, to love people, and to be there for the people. That's why we have our own free will and intellect bestowed upon us to help transform this society we are having into reflection of God's kingdom. Therefore, you also have this free responsibility. Responsibility to respond to God's call in committing yourself in vocation. Thus, it is through vocation we can meet the desires that you need in such as a healthy relationship in the community among us. However, in order to love and serve each other, you must also have the trust each one of us possess. In fact, one of the core values of CSD is the preferential option for the poor. In fact, in a society where the poor and the rich, we are called through the universal vocation to side with the poor, putting our trust into us. Thus, it is our responsibility, using our particular vocation, to return the trust the people entrusted you by simple way of serving and loving one another. As member of Christian community, it is your Christian responsibility to respond to the call that the community needs through the simple acts of charity and structural changes in the community. Most especially, trust within each other in order to transform this society into one God's kingdom. I believe that all of us have a vocation we must do. In receiving universal vocation, such as trust, it is our response also to return the trust using our particular vocation to help the poor in need. According to Pope Francis, only trust in God can transform doubts into certainty, evil into good. Although the life of a person is in land full of thorns and weeds, there is always a space in which the good seed can grow. You have to trust God in a very real way. Thus, I believe that living out the trust within one another, we can obtain the changes and solutions to the suffering and poverty that our brothers and sisters are experiencing.